fuck am I watching right now? Hello, welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
How's everybody doing? Happy New Year. It's 2023 now.
That's right. Happy New Year, everybody. 2023 is among us already.
Yeah, hopefully even better than 2022, because 2022 definitely had its downsides.
Yeah. We've been on we've had a rough couple of years since 2020, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody can agree with that.
Yeah.
But man, 2020 seems like just yesterday, but it was two years ago, 3 years ago now.
Just don't let one little thing that happens in the first week of 2023 define 2023 already. I hate when people do that. Like, well, it's already off to a shit start. I got a flat tire
Right.
or whatever it is. 2023 is fucked.
Yep.
It's like, dude, give it a chance.
Yep.
Give it some time.
Yeah. It's just January. Don't worry. You won't even remember
You're
this
just already
month by the
writing it
end of the
off
year.
like 3 days in.
Yeah.
Your football team
it's
lost
gonna be
or some
okay.
shit. My fantasy football teams took a shit at just on January 1st. That was it, man. Championship week did not go my way at all. But I'm not going to let it define me. It's a new year.
No, absolutely not, man. Absolutely not.
Fuck
we
you,
got
Mike
playoffs
Evans.
coming up.
That's all I'll say. Fucking have to put up 50 points after doing nothing all year, you son of a bitch.
Damn, he put up 50 points.
50 goddamn. He scored 3 touchdowns all year. Weeks 1 through 16. Scores 3 yesterday against me. Technically against my wife's team, but whatever.
Whatever.
Unbelievable.
You still take responsibility for it.
No doubt. Anyways, we're not here to talk about fantasy football. We're here to talk about serial killers and true crime, of course.
That's right.
Yep.
And we got a Florida man serial killer.
We have a Florida sexual sadist. Never heard of that before. Never.
Oh, no? Have you?
First
Never?
one.
First one. That's right. I think he's the only serial killer on death row in Florida.
Yeah, right. Shit,
Well,
was.
he's dead now.
Yep.
Yeah, he's dead now. Put to death in 2019.
Yep. Good old Ron DeSantis put him down. Signed the death warrant.
Yeah. Well, good.
But
good riddance.
This guy he got started and hit the ground running hot as a killer. And at age 31, he had an 8-month spree totaling 10 victims before being caught. So he was one of those that just kind of ramped up to it. He was a rapist for a long time, actually known as the classified ads rapist. I mean, he wasn't known as that. They were, the media was dubbing someone the classified ads rapist. They didn't know who it was.
Right.
It turned out to be him. They later found out. And he finally dipped his toes into the killing and just dove in head first after that.
Oh, yeah. And all the boxes are checked here from childhood trauma, head trauma,
honestly,
mama issues.
He actually added a new box. Like this guy, honestly, there is no surprise he became a serial killer. When you go through this guy's background, it's just like, Jesus Christ, he had no chance. It was one thing after another with his upbringing.
Yeah, and genetics too.
Dude, seriously. What the fuck? We got this is a weird one-off situation in this one. Something I didn't even know existed. A syndrome that he was born with that was totally random. That just was like, man, that's brutal.
Yep.
But we'll get into all that.
It didn't help.
Let's get into the intro and then we'll get into Bobby Bitch Tits.
All right. All right. Let's do it, man.
I mean, this guy, he knew what he was doing. He had me. Forgot. I could have been dead. I could have been lying down in some ditch or somewhere.
All the victims, all of them, and you're talking about a lot of them, a lot.
He was a monster. He is still a monster until the day he takes his last breath.
A lot of lives just gone right down the tubes because of me. In one way or another. And it's not a good feeling. It's not a pleasant feeling. I'm not proud of anything I've done.
I will be witnessing his execution. It's something I need to do for myself. What he did was horrendous. How he did it, these girls, these victims, didn't deserve to be killed.
And the worst thing is I don't understand why. I don't understand why.
All right, for our case this week, we are doing Bobby Joe Long, a serial killer, sexual sadist from Florida, working in the 80s. This is a suggestion from a listener, Rebecca C. on Instagram. Thank you very much for the suggestion. This case is right up our alley. It's perfect. if you listen to our show enough, you realize this is a perfect case for us.
Absolutely. We love serial killers that are easy targets to make fun of.
Yeah, 100%.
And this guy, man, he like I said in the intro, he checks all of the boxes plus some extras.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Plus
all of
some
the above,
extras.
plus like, do you want to add an extra one here with a comment box? That's
Yeah.
Klinefelter syndrome.
him.
Yeah. Let's add that one in.
Yeah.
So,
If you don't know what that is, we're about to get into it.
yeah. So Bobby Long, or Bobby Joe Long, was born on October 14th, 1953 in Canova, West Virginia. He shares a birthday with Stephen A. Smith, Jared Goff, and Shaggy Two Dope from ICP.
And also Usher.
Usher too. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would
also,
top all of these.
Yeah, I'm surprised you
oddball
didn't have
characters
him on
here.
the list.
Yeah. Stephen A. Smith.
Really surprised.
God, that guy. I want to slap him. He's just so slappable.
He's just a shock factor announcer now, man.
He
He
just talks shit and he knows nothing. It's unbelievable. Like,
He's
just
the
don't
hot
let that guy
take
talk
king.
about MMA or any sports that he doesn't watch. It doesn't feel like he watches any sports. He like reads like a headline or like some box scores in the morning and then just like, okay, I can riff on this.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, because his job is to stir people up now. It's not to give true opinions anymore. I mean, I feel like he's past that. Now it's just like how many people can I piss off with this statement? Or how can I piss off the biggest amount of people?
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to get your video passed around.
Yeah, who's the other guy that does the show with Shannon Sharp, the white guy the old white guy that's just like an idiot. He's just like the white version of Stephen A. Smith.
His name is Colin something.
No, not Colin
right?
Cowherd. No, the other guy, the
No, not
Texas
Colin
guy
Cowherd.
that always just like.
Dude, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Me
but
too.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah, but anyways, they're both the same guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Both
They
idiots.
just want to piss people off.
Yeah.
They just want to piss people off.
Yeah.
They want to have hot takes. They're Captain Hot Takes,
Yeah.
man. It's what I call them. I'm like, you're not actually analyzing anything anymore. You started out that way.
Yeah.
But now you're just trying to piss people off.
Yeah, but good old Shaggy Two Dope from ICP, man. ICP was quite a thing in the 90s, huh?
Yeah, it was.
There's a lot of people still
Yeah.
walking around with the Hatchet Man tattoos, calling them. I don't know
Yeah,
if they're
and
still calling
stickers on their
themselves
car.
Juggalos or what.
Yeah, Juggalos, man. They were big. Juggalos and Juggalettes.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
They're still around.
I never got
It's
into
just kind
it.
of more of a sad story at this point.
Yeah, yeah, they're kind of there'll be a like behind the music
Yeah.
about them coming out
Right.
pretty soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, so back to our study here. Bobby Joe Long, as we mentioned,
Right.
born in 1953 in West Virginia. He was born with, something called Klinefelter syndrome. It's a random genetic condition in which a male is born with an extra copy of the X chromosome. The primary features are infertility, small, poorly functioning testicles, and it also sometimes includes weaker muscles, greater height, which is kind of odd.
That is odd.
Poor motor coordination, less body hair, breast growth, and less interest in sex, largely due to the fact that it causes larger levels of estrogen inside of a male,
Okay.
which is
I've
partially
never heard of this.
responsible for breast growth. So he
Right.
grew some breasts as a young teen and had to have them surgically removed later on.
Yeah, I think at 13.
Yeah, 13 years old, he would
he was
later have them
developing
removed.
breasts.
He was,
Yeah.
one of those kids that at the beach or whatever would always keep a shirt on.
Dude, I think he kept his shirt on his whole life.
Probably, well, yeah,
if I'm
because
not
even after he got
mistaken.
him removed, you had to think he probably had some nasty scars going on.
Yeah, yeah. I think he was kind of self-conscious of his body, especially his torso, his whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So his parents, Joe and Louetta Long, got divorced when he was 2 years old. And following the divorce, his mother moved to Miami, taking him with her at 2 years old. So I believe he was an only child. I didn't hear anything about siblings.
Yeah, he was
But
his
he-
only child.
He had a very odd relationship with his mom, very checking those boxes, the serial killers.
Yep. Apparently his mom was quite the looker.
She was quite the
From what I
looker. She
gathered.
dressed,
Yeah.
a little bit provocative, I suppose. She was a cocktail waitress, and she would
Right.
frequently bring home men to the apartment that she shared with young Bobby. And he stayed in her bed with her until he was in his teens. They slept together. And, frequently she would bring home a guy and he would be kicked to the couch for her to get it on.
Right. Yeah.
And it just
he didn't
created
like
this,
that.
it created this weird dynamic where you almost wonder if he had this infatuation with her for a while and then grew into hatred.
Possibly. It didn't help. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But she was a young woman,
He definitely hated her as an adult. And some speculate that he was symbolically killing her with each of his victims.
Old Ed Kemper type
A bit of
shit.
an Ed Kemper vibe going on for sure.
Except for there was no evidence that his mother was abusive like Ed Kemper's mother, though. She wasn't not even verbally.
Right.
He just didn't like her lifestyle. He didn't like that other men wanted her.
Mm.
He wanted to be the only man in
Maybe
her
that's what it
life.
was. He wanted her for himself, and there kept
Damn, like Oedipus
there
complex.
kept popping in these guys that would take her away briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, she was a young woman. I mean, she divorced his father when she was 2,
Yeah.
when he was 2. So, I mean, she's not dead. She wants to carry on her life. I'm sure she's looking for, her next husband or whatever.
Yeah.
Or at least, I mean, everybody needs some type of company at some point
I mean,
in time.
ultimately, more so than the relationship with his mother or whatever is, his mom, like you said, wasn't abusive. This is not that out of the norm for a kid to sleep with their mom until they're, even into their early teens. I mean, once you get past like 10, it's a little weird, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I mean, who are we to judge?
Right.
The problem is all of the brain trauma, in my opinion. That really changed this dude because he had a lot of
Yes.
it. As a child, he had several head injuries, checking more boxes. He fell downstairs. He fell off a swing. A swing set, man, always seems to pop up. These swings.
Yep.
You'd think you'd hear more
Swing
about
sets are
trampolines.
dangerous.
Trampolines seem way more dangerous than a fucking swing, but
Dude, but they weren't as popular back then. Trampolines weren't.
yeah.
But do you remember like playgrounds back in the day? Like even when we were kids, like they were all metal. Like they
Oh
had
my
like,
God.
those big metal
The monkey
domes and shit.
bars,
Like, there
everything.
was-
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
No
there would be
doubt.
like these things that was just a bunch of ropes weaved together. It's like it'd be so easy to fall and like hang yourself on these
Right.
things. It's like
Yeah,
like
and,
playgrounds were dangerous places.
And swings, though, I mean, what would you do when you were on the swings? When you hit 5, 6, 7 years old as a boy? Let's see
jump
how
off.
high I can go up and jump off.
Yeah. Absolutely, I'm going to jump off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you go off and your gas gets kind of caught on it, and then you go face first. So you'll get caught on something.
Yeah.
And not only that,
Yep.
if you fucking walk in front of somebody else swinging, or you land in front of someone else swinging, you
Oh,
just get
yeah.
kicked in the face. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so he falls downstairs, and that was the least of it, really, because he was also thrown from a horse and was hit by a car as a young man so badly
The
that
car,
he needed surgery
the
to
worst.
repair his jaw. So let's not blame the swing too much.
Right. Yeah, the swing, it's the car, really, I think, that did him in.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, and then there's a motorcycle accident later as an adult that just seems to have really been the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yes, it really, I would say the greatest change in his behavior came after the motorcycle accident.
Yeah. So I'm sure I read a little bit that he was bullied relentlessly, probably, partially due to the fact that he had breasts as a young man.
Mhm.
That doesn't help.
Right.
So at 13, he had his breast surgically removed due to the Klinefelter
Mhm.
syndrome. Then in his late teens, he would drop out of high school and become an electrician. And due to his skills as an electrician, he would join the Army and enter that field. But
Here we
around that
go,
time,
military box checked.
yep, military box. Yes, absolutely. Usually there's a stint in the military at some point with a lot of these serial killers in the 70s and 80s.
Yep.
Around the time that he joined the Army, he married his high school girlfriend, Cindy Bartlett. They had met when he was around 13, same time that he got his breast surgery.
Right.
And so they were kind of like, young sweethearts, known each other for a long time, and they would get married in 1974 when Bobby was 21, and they would stay together for quite a while before she finally had enough.
Yeah, she said when they were kids, they were pretty mischievous. They would get into like just playing pranks on people, running around the neighborhood. They both kind of felt like outcasts.
She said he was the love of her life. She was absolutely in love and infatuated with him early on.
Yeah. I think there's an advantage to growing up together like that.
Yeah.
I think it kind of accentuates those feelings a lot. You know what I mean? Even in a relationship that maybe wasn't meant to be.
Right. Yeah. So that same year, while enlisted in the Army, talking about 1974, he suffered another major head injury when he crashed a motorcycle, landing him in the hospital for 5 months. So nearly died.
This is where things really changed.
Yeah, nearly died. And some more severe head trauma just piling up, the frontal cortex damage, just completely taken away any inhibitions, and seemingly just his impulse control was completely gone following this accident.
Do you think it was that, or do you think it was the near-death experience that just made him finally want to act on these fantasies?
Maybe a little bit of both, but I think there's absolutely something to be said. And you've seen it time and time again where someone gets hit by a car or something like that, and their personality changes.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the better. Sometimes people they become great at something. Like a lot of comedians. They were normal people, and then they got hit by a car or something, and all of a sudden they just become prolific comedians because they just fuck it, all I'm going to do is what I want to do all the time.
I think Sam Kinison. I think that happened to Sam Kinison.
Yeah, I think something like, didn't like Roseanne Barr or something like that too? She had
Roseanne
some head
Barr,
injury.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's odd. You know what was weird though? It's weird that this motorcycle accident flipped the switch on his disorder, right? Because a big part of his disorder was low sex drive,
Yeah.
remember?
Mm-hmm.
And then now all of a sudden you're in this motorcycle accident and you're well into adulthood,
Yeah.
and now you're obsessed with sex.
Yeah.
Ain't that crazy? Like
And
the brain is such a
it was seen right
such a
away
weird thing.
while he was in the hospital in a body cast. Nurses
Yeah.
reported him masturbating 5 times a day while in a body
I don't
cast.
even want to
I
know
don't
how
even
that
know how you
happened.
managed to do that.
How do you do that?
It's amazing.
I'm not even mad. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
What the-
Seriously. I mean,
How?
where there's a will, there's a way, I suppose. I'm just trying to do the
I
math in my head on how this works because I'm just picturing him like, stiff, like,
Oh, I know. We're thinking like cartoon
Yeah,
freaking body
body cast,
cast, you
right?
know. Like you're like suspended, your arms and legs are suspended and shit. Obviously it wasn't that extreme.
yeah.
You know, and maybe his pelvis wasn't in a cast, you know.
Right.
Maybe he didn't break his pelvis.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like Meredith on The Office.
I'm just
Remember
trying to
when,
picture
Michael
like
Scott hits her with his car.
how animals, some animals masturbate, like rub it on themselves or whatever. Like horses, like slap it against their stomach. It's pretty creepy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Horses masturbate
Oh,
like
yeah.
that? Wow, you learn something new every day.
The joys of being with a wife that's had horses her whole life. The things you learn.
Wow, the more you know.
But no matter how he did it, he got it done 5 times a day. But then again, when you're in a body cast and you're held
Jesus.
up in a hospital, what else is there to do, for Christ's sake?
What else? Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. You know, you get bored, man.
Yeah.
TV loses its luster. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Like,
I know
yeah.
that young teenage boys, their hormones are going crazy, but also I think a part of why they masturbate so much is boredom as well. Like summer vacation, you're sitting around. What else is there to
Mhm.
do?
Yeah, exactly.
Nonetheless, after his release from the hospital, Bobby displayed more jealous and aggressive behavior towards his wife. So she noticed a change in his personality. He had his moments before. He was very, what's the word? He was
Well, like bipolar kind of.
no, like he was ornery, I guess. There was things that would set him
Oh.
off. She noticed, like he hated the smell of garlic and popcorn, which that just makes him even more a monster in my mind. Those are 2 like top 20 smells, up there with like
Right.
fresh cut grass, watermelon.
Right? Who doesn't like the smell
Popcorn
of
and garlic are like, man, grilled onions. Like there's just
I put
top
garlic in
20.
everything too.
That's what I'm saying. Top 20 smell.
Yeah.
Some roasted
that's-
garlic,
that's-
bro. Come on.
That should have been a red flag for you right there.
Seriously.
He doesn't like
I don't think I
popcorn.
could
Get
be
him
with
outta here.
someone that doesn't like the smell of popcorn or garlic.
Maybe
We're just not the
bad
same.
things
We're
happen to
different.
him. Maybe bad things happen to them during that smell, you know, because smells can be tied to your memories so strongly.
That is true.
And like,
that is true.
you know, maybe his mom would make popcorn for these guys that she would bring home or whatever. And he just related it to that smell.
Still to this day, I have a bad connection with pine, the smell pine, even though I love like nature and pine trees and all that. But like one time I had
Yeah.
a surgery, probably for one of my broken bones, and they used to offer you scents for like what gas they would put you down with. They would give you like an option on scents, and pine. I chose pine, and that was a mistake. I don't know, just correlating the two
Ruined
of
it for
like
you.
you getting put under and all that stuff, and it just not a good connection now.
Damn. Well, and then now every time you smell pine, you think about that surgery.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the smells, man, they can be tied to it. They can be tied to anything.
Mm-hmm. So some of the things he would do to her, he would just be mean to her. And then also, like she mentioned, there was times where he would display his dominance over her by like pinning her on the couch with his knees on her shoulders and then slapping her in the face, which is just sounds horrendous.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like some elementary school bully shit
Yes,
too, though.
totally.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, they would go on to have 2 daughters together. It was a busy year in 1974 for him. He joined the army. I think he got married, joined the army, had the motorcycle accident, and had his first daughter. And they had 2 daughters almost immediately back to back, almost so much so that the wife and mother said that it was like essentially like having twins because they were born with like in the same year. Or what do they call it? Irish twins or something like that?
Right.
1974 and
12 months apart.
1975, their daughters were born. And it's
Wow.
always amazing to me, someone who's a sexual sadist targeting women and has daughters. It just makes no sense. Like, it's just, isn't that crazy?
It really, yeah. If that doesn't change your perspective, nothing will.
Yeah, because I mean, I've never had any motivation to ever harm women, but like even more so when I had a daughter, it just like can't even fathom it at this point.
Right. It really puts things into perspective. It changes your whole vision.
Yeah.
It does.
He once was arrested after he choked Cynthia unconscious and slammed her head against the television. She said, "When I came to, I was on the couch. Of course, he was there crying. I'll never do it again. I'm so sorry. Then the next words were, when you drive yourself to get stitches, if you tell them what really happened, I'll kill you when you get home.
All right. Great. This is promising.
Yeah. Nonetheless, the hospital saw, what had been done to her and made the decision that this was domestic abuse and had Bobby arrested.
Wow. That's pretty crazy, like with no evidence.
Yeah. She was in a special that I watched on YouTube. We'll have the link below. And she was interviewed in that, and she talked about how following this latest instance of abuse, she actually one night was basically had a loaded shotgun pointed to his head while he slept and was sitting there all night. She said she stayed up all night with that gun to his head, just contemplating whether she should pull the trigger or not. But she said the one thing that made her not do it was the fact that they had kids who would raise their daughters, because she would be in prison and their dad would be dead.
Yep.
Absolutely makes sense. I mean, that'd be a hard thing to do, even if you wanted to end him after the abuse you've suffered, just thinking about how now they have no mom or dad.
Yeah. And I know one instance, or one time while she had the shotgun out, he woke up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he looked at her and he was like, you don't have the nerve to do it, bitch.
Oh my
He said something like that. Yeah.
Imagine she just pulls the trigger right then.
Into tears.
I
know, right?
What was that?
I know, right?
I'm sorry, you were saying?
But that gives you some insight into him too, as well. Like I think at that moment he had decided he doesn't care if he lives or dies.
Yeah. That maybe went back to that head trauma and that impulse control and all of that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Because you just don't think about consequences. I think when you get that level of brain damage, it doesn't really occur to you.
No. The impulses are so strong. Yeah. I think that's the only thing that controls your brain.
Yeah, and we don't get it twisted into we're making excuses for this guy. He's a fucking monster.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But nonetheless, I think the head trauma definitely played a role in him taking action on a lot of things that he wanted to do.
Yeah, well, it absolutely escalated it.
Yeah.
Right to murder.
Mm-hmm.
It made him a lot more rambunctious, a lot more impulsive.
Yeah.
He just didn't care about human life after that.
And before he delved into murder, long before that, he started frequently raping women, and this began in the late 70s. Bobby's wife noticed him being gone for all hours of the night with no explanation for where he was, and this is because he had discovered a clever way of getting invited into women's homes so that he could rape them. He would frequently respond to classified ads, something we've seen. We've done cases on classified ads killers before.
Yep.
They were just, they weren't like they are now, where there's tracing to them, like you respond to a Craigslist ad, there's a digital footprint of that. Like, even if you call someone with a phone now, everything is tracked so much. Whereas before it was like landlines in the 70s and a newspaper ad. Like, there's just no tracking that. So he would call these ads, and if it was a woman and it seemed like she was alone, he would obviously make that determination when he got there. If they were selling something and a woman picked up the phone when he called, he would then make plans to meet at their home. And then when he got there, if it seemed as though there was no man there, he would rape them.
Yep. And he was smart about the things that he was shopping for. I'm using quotes here because, he would look for things like bedroom sets, couches, things that are going to be kept inside your home.
Yep.
So when you come to visit, you're going to be taken into the bedroom and or living room or whatever out of public eye. Like, he was pretty smart about this. And then, like, if he showed up and a guy answered the door, he'd be like, okay, well, never mind. It's not what I'm looking for.
He would look at the item and say,
yes,
I'm not interested. It's not going to work.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
You just wish that one of those times he, would begin doing what he was going to do, and then the husband or boyfriend would show up. That would have been nice, right?
Oh, right.
In the middle of it.
Kill his ass right then.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't happen.
Yeah, so he would pull a knife on them, bind them, and rob their homes after having his way with them. Between 1975 and 1984, it's believed that he committed dozens of rapes in Florida using this method. Some estimates put his rape count at 50 women. And as we mentioned earlier, the publications would name this person the classified ad rapist.
But they had no leads. They had no idea who he was at this time.
They wouldn't find out who the classified ad rapist was until late 1984, following him being captured for the murders that he commits.
Which, isn't this crazy? Because, I mean, he wasn't killing these women, so they all saw him.
Yeah.
They all saw him. They all saw his car. They all... I just don't get it. I don't get how you...
Maybe they saw his car. He might have also parked around the corner and walked up to their door. Who
But that's
knows?
even more suspicious. Like, how are you going to haul this furniture that you're
Right.
coming to look at if you just walked up to my house?
Mm-hmm. True.
I don't know, man. There's so many gaps in that. It baffles me that he was able to get away for so long. None of these women were able to, give a good idea of what he looked like or anything, a sketch together. I don't know.
Yeah. I
It
mean,
just
there was
baffles me.
nothing that distinct about his looks either. Like if you look up a picture of him,
That's
he
true.
just kind of looks like a guy. He's nothing.
Yeah.
He didn't have the
He's not
boobies
a head
anymore,
turner.
unfortunately.
Right.
That could have been something that got him caught long ago.
Right. Right.
He looks like a man with a mustache, and then he's got tits. So that would have been a lot easier to capture him.
Yeah, that would have been way easier.
He's got double D's
Right.
with a mustache. That would have been a whole lot easier.
Right. Right. He sticks out of a crowd now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So in 1980, his wife Cindy had finally had enough, and she filed for divorce. And they had a tumultuous split for a while. She talked in the documentary about it, how the first year or two it was what you'd expect from a nasty divorce. He would come to get the girls or whatever, and it was just they hated each other. But eventually,
Right.
she said that they finally started to get more cooperative with each other, I suppose you could say, and that might have come when he a few years later moved from Miami to Tampa. But not before.
Okay.
In 1981, 1 year after his divorce, he was charged, tried, and convicted of rape, but appealed the conviction and it was acquitted. I'm not sure about the details of this, but there must have been some lack of evidence, or maybe the victim didn't show up for the second trial
Right.
or whatever. Who knows what happened? That would be my guess, is maybe the victim didn't show up out of
That's the
fear.
only thing I can think too.
We've seen that
As
so many
far as
times.
these, yeah, and maybe a lot of his victims were that way. He was very good at picking his victims, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe he did pick women who were just afraid to come forward, or he threatened them, surely, before he left. But and maybe they just were terrified that he wouldn't get caught in time, or if he gets picked up for rape, he doesn't even do that much time in prison, and then he's back out.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought it would be easier just to forget about it and just be more, be more protective.
Yeah. Well, it was in 1984 when he moved from Miami to Tampa that he became a serial killer. I don't know if this was a conscious decision. It almost seems like it was. Maybe it was that 1981 close call with rape that he decided, as we've seen in many other cases, where it's like, well, if I don't leave a victim living, a rape victim alive, then they can't they can't finger me in court and put me away if I just make sure that
Right.
they're gone.
Yep.
I didn't think about it till this moment. It probably had something to do with that 1981 close call for rape, that he decided, if I just kill them, then I don't have to worry about it.
Yep. Exactly.
So while in Tampa, he would drive around in his 1978 maroon Dodge Magnum. He would drive up and down Tampa's Nebraska Avenue, which was their red light district, which had many clubs and bars and was frequented by sex workers. And that was his main target, as many of our serial killers he would target sex workers for the most part. However, he did
Right.
on several occasions just find a woman walking down the street and snatch them up,
Yeah.
or invite them in for a ride if they were walking or whatever it may be. This is where his sex crimes escalated into murders. He would quickly develop an MO in which he would persuade women into his car, rape them, and then drive to a rural, deserted location where he would kill them. Most of the time, this is what he did. He would also he also liked bondage. He would use ropes. He would fashion his own hangman's noose, which was something I've never heard a serial killer do. We know that Gacy, we always have to bring him up, right? He had his, I forget what they called that, where he would use a stick and the rope and twist it.
Right. Right.
He had his thing.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of a killer using a hangman's noose to strangle people. That was an interesting little sidebar on this.
It was pretty dark.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that you get pulled over and you got like a kill kit and that includes a hangman's noose. That is that's going to give,
Yeah.
it's going to give some suspicion on law enforcement side.
Absolutely. At the very least, they're going to want to bring you in for questioning, make sure you're not suicidal or something. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Most of his victims died from strangulation, though some had their throats slit. There was one victim that fought really hard and ran, and he caught up to her and slit her throat. One was shot. That was odd. It was almost like he was just getting bored and trying new things at a certain point.
Right. I think he's getting lazy as well.
Yeah. Many of them were
'Cause-
bound and posed into grotesque positions as well.
Yeah, it was obvious he wanted to embarrass the victim. That's one of the things I really hate about this dude.
Yeah.
He obviously wanted to embarrass these victims.
Didn't it also seem like he treated the sex workers differently too? Like he really got off on torturing
Yes.
them, leaving them nude,
Yes.
and then in grotesque positions and stuff. It was almost like a Jack the Ripper type of vibe to it.
Yes.
Because there was a couple of victims that weren't sex workers, that the girls were just, they were riding a bike down the street or walking or whatever, and it seemed like he
Right.
left them clothed and not
He
like
did.
posed.
Yes.
He definitely had a hatred
Yeah.
for sex workers, and it must have stemmed back to his mom or whatever it was.
I guess so. Even though his mom wasn't a sex worker.
I know, but like you put her in the same kind of thing. You know, she
I guess he
dressed
did.
scantily and she brought home men frequently or whatever it was.
Right.
So the first of Bobby Long's victims would be 20-year-old Artis Wick, who had hitchhiked from Gas City, Indiana to Tampa. She was engaged to be married and came across Bobby. He abducted her, raped her, and strangled her on March 27th, 1984. And she wouldn't be attributed to his victims until like he was captured. It was thought of that his second victim was his first victim for a while, but it would later come to light that she was his first victim. That was partially because police didn't find her skeletal remains until 8 months later after her murder on November 22nd, 1984. She was found in rural southern Hillsborough County, Florida.
Isn't she one where he gave up the location of her body, like after being caught? That's why it's 8 months later, right?
I believe so.
Because
that was when he was
he
captured. It was in, I think, November of 1984. So that would make sense.
Yeah, I think he ended up giving up her body location.
Mm-hmm.
So.
His second victim would be 19-year-old Nguyen Tai Lana Long. She went by Lana or Lena. She immigrated to California from Laos. She followed her boyfriend to Tampa from California and was enrolled to attend art classes at USF. Sorry. In the meantime, she was working as an exotic dancer at Nebraska Avenue's Sly Fox Lounge. And this must have been where Bobby came across her. And on May 13th, her body would be discovered in a field. She would be found nude and bound with cord tied around her neck. Underneath her body was a white scarf tied in a knot. She was the first of Bobby's victims to be found, and for a while was the first victim attributed to him due to that fact.
Yes. And she was one of the first ones they found, displayed in a very vulnerable position.
Mm-hmm.
I think they said that her legs were spread to the point to where her ankles were over 5 feet apart.
Good God.
I heard that in a documentary. Like that's insane. Yeah. Like he probably like dislocated her hips, honestly. He was just brutal.
Man, there's so much there. There's definitely some Jack the Ripper to him, isn't there? Like he just like you said, he wanted to embarrass them.
Absolutely. He's a piece
of shit. The frequency too, of which when he started killing, he just really went for it. Because it was like bodies were being found every other week for that 8-month period.
Right. Because he probably got to the point where this was the only way to get aroused, and his appetite was insatiable at this time. So you combine the two, and now he's lived out this fantasy, and it's like, what's going to compare to this fantasy for him at this point?
It just seems like so often we study serial killers, and their first victim, they do it, and then they take a break because they're like scared to get caught. They're like, holy shit, I just did that. And then they take like 6 months, sometimes a year. Not the case here. He's just like boom, 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 week, every other week.
Well, because he'd already been a rapist for so long, though.
True. That is very true.
Like he was no stranger to the majority of this crime. Yeah. It's just the finishing aspect that he added, which was silencing the victim indefinitely.
Yeah. So 2 weeks after Lena Long was murdered, the body of a 22-year-old former beauty contestant, Michelle Sims, was found off an Interstate 4 overpass. She had been a California native as well, but had recently moved to Tampa. She had been working as a receptionist, but was also, addicted to drugs and involved in sex work on the side. She was found nude and bound with her throat slit. I believe she was the one that fought back and ran, and he caught up to her and slit her throat. Her clothes lay next to her, and it would end up being her murder that would ultimately put Bobby Joe Long in the execution chair many years later. It was her.
Probably the brutality of it, really.
The brutality. I'm sure it didn't hurt that she was a beauty queen, and all those things probably played into a jury's hands, for the prosecution.
Right. And I'm sure there was a lot of evidence tied to her too, because he had to be so physical with her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like you said, she fought back, she ran. I'm sure there was a lot more evidence on her body and at the crime scene because of the brutal and messy way that he killed her.
Yeah. And then on June 24th, 1984, 22-year-old Elizabeth Lutenbach's body was discovered fully clothed in an orange grove. She had been raped and strangled. She was a shy girl who worked on an electronics assembly line at a factory. She had never been involved in sex work. She just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, walking down Nebraska Avenue, just blocks from her home, when she was abducted by Long on the evening of June 8th, 1984. Prime example of just a girl that was not involved in sex work, who was, different in his eyes. He viewed as many serial killers do, sex workers as less than human. This girl, a normal girl working at a factory in his eyes. So he left her fully clothed, didn't pose her and do all of that, didn't slit her throat. Still, nonetheless, a horrific end for her life and a tragedy. I mean, he still raped and murdered her, strangling her. But the way it's interesting, the way that he treated her body afterwards, differently than the sex workers, for sure.
Yeah, it is interesting. It really is. I guess he just got desperate, or sometimes he just was opportunistic.
Just saw them and couldn't help himself. Saw them alone and just had to strike.
Yep.
It's at this point that police began to think that there's a serial killer that's targeting these women in Tampa, and forensic analysis would confirm their suspicions that these murders were all connected. On Sims and Ludenbach's clothing and the white scarf found under Lena Long, tiny red nylon fibers, likely from carpet, were discovered. And most of the dump sites from the murders also had matching distinct and rare tire tracks that they said were typically from a Cadillac, which is interesting because he was driving that red Magnum at the time, but who knows where he got the tires from.
Magnum. Right.
So his fifth,
I think he had one tire. I think he had one tire that was different, and that was the tread that was so rare.
Oh, he might have had a flat and had a spare from somewhere, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was on his spare, or maybe he just, like you said, maybe he had one tire, maybe he hit a nail with one tire and had to have just one replaced. But whatever it was that one different tire that was rare. Yeah. That really cemented it and connected him to all these crime scenes.
Well, thank God for that nail or whatever it was that blew out that tire that he had.
Absolutely. Wish it would have happened sooner.
Yeah, that's one of those things in life, man. Just like a random occurrence changes everything.
Yep. And he had that crazy red interior too, the red carpet in the car,
I guess that
which kept showing up.
We'll talk later too. There was a distinct thing about the year vehicle that he had. It had the font of Magnum inside the car. It was only 1 year that did that, and it was his.
Yeah, on the
which didn't help.
like on the glove box or whatever on the passenger side.
Yep.
And one of the victims saw it. That's brilliant.
So Bobby Joe Long's fifth victim was 21-year-old Vicki Elliott, who disappeared on September 7th, 1984, on her way home from waitressing at the Ramada Inn. At the time of her death, Vicki had plane tickets to go back to Muskegon, Michigan, where she had dreams of becoming a paramedic. I don't believe she was involved in sex work either. Her body wasn't found until November 16th, 1984. She had been strangled. And once again, I don't think she was found in the same fashion as the sex workers. Once again,
I don't think so either. I couldn't find anything about the way her body was found, but I feel like they would have mentioned it if she was nude and displayed in a certain way.
This is the one that's a bit different, and they didn't connect him to this one right away because there was such he veered off and the MO changed. On October 7th, 1984, 18-year-old Chanel Williams' body was found. She was a sex worker and was abducted from Nebraska Avenue, much like some of his other victims, but her murder was not immediately attributed to him because she was the only black victim and the only one who had been shot to death. She was found nude and her clothes laid next to her, which was common for the sex workers that he killed, but using a gun is different. And like the other victims, though, this is how they later connected him to them. The forensic tests done on Chanel's clothing revealed the presence of those same red tiny fibers from what would turn out to be the interior of his red Magnum.
Yep. Couldn't ditch those red fibers, man.
Yeah.
Such unique car interior. I think he shot her too in the back of the neck.
Oof.
Which was such a weird thing to do.
Right.
Maybe he didn't want to disturb her face.
I mean, who knows what happened? Maybe she was fighting real hard with him and he just grabbed the gun from his glove box, or who knows? We'll never know what happened.
Well, I would say he was probably walking her out through the woods blindfolded behind
Possibly.
her and just shot her probably at the base of the skull is
Mm.
what I'm imagining. But yeah, it is weird that he decided to shoot her.
Yeah.
But like you said, this is ramping up. This is getting towards the end of his streak here, right?
He's getting more
maybe
brazen.
he's getting more brazen, and he just wants to be done with it because the killing is not the part he enjoys, obviously.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he just wanted to get it done however he had to get it done, I think. He just didn't care at this point.
He did enjoy torturing though. So he's known as a sexual sadist. So maybe he enjoyed the torture, but not the once they were killed, it was no fun anymore because he couldn't torture them any longer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think like that's why he left all those early victims alive. That's why he was just raping people for so long.
True.
And then he realized
He
it was
probably
only
got
a
off
matter
on
of
the
time.
idea that they were going to be scared forever, that he would come back or whatever.
Absolutely.
Very much like
ruining
the
lives.
Golden State Killer. I think he would have just gone on raping forever if he didn't turn to murder as a means of like staying free, and not getting caught.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
1 week later, 28-year-old Karen Dinsfrin's body was found in an orange grove. She would be his 7th victim. She had a daughter named Alexa that she supported through sex work on Nebraska Avenue, and she had been strangled and bludgeoned to death. Ligature marks were present on her neck, and she had been bound. And that's this is one of the incidents where the hangman's noose was used.
Mm-hmm.
Very bizarre.
And it was found at the scene, right?
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. Then we get on to Kimberly Hops, a 22-year-old who had dreams of moving out west to Texas, but had unfortunately crossed paths with one of the most evil men in Florida. Her remains would be found on the side of US 301 North on October 31st, Halloween, 1984, but her murder was not attributed to Bobby Long right away. She was nude, and exposure to the elements had made her body impossible to identify, and too much time had passed to collect forensic evidence from the scene. So she'd been obviously killed much sooner than October 31st.
It's heartbreaking how many women were on the verge of moving away from that area too, isn't it?
Yes.
Like we just talked about a victim who already had plane tickets to go to Michigan.
Yeah.
And then like she was planning on moving to Texas. It's just
these are all details that I
heartbreaking,
found.
man.
There's a link below to a Facebook page that put more information about Bobby Joe Long's victims. The page is dedicated to just more information about the victims because so often we just hear their name and when they were killed, and it's all this information about the killer. I tried to find as much as I could on these victims, and rarely is a sex worker doing that with long-term plans of that being their career forever. They're doing it to survive in the meantime while they're trying to get something figured out.
Right.
To put food on the table. Maybe sometimes they have a young child, and they're maybe their boyfriend or whatever took off on them, and they're just trying to survive.
That's right.
Speaking of survive, let's talk about the one that survived, the one that got away,
All right.
the one that he let get away, the one that got him caught. And you have to think
one that
this
played to his ego.
There was a level of intention here for himself getting caught. It might have been one of those instances where he was just ready to put an end to it. Because on November 3rd, 1984, 17-year-old Lisa McVay was riding her bike home from work at Krispy Kreme Donuts at around 2 a.m. Bobby Joe Long ran at her, pushed her off her bike, and dragged her into his car. He blindfolded her, drove her to his apartment, and raped her repeatedly over a 26-hour period. Straying far away from his MO. Straying far away from his MO, taking her to his apartment. He'd never done this before.
That's what I was about to say. Like, this is crazy brave right here.
Yeah.
Taking her home. Yeah, he don't give a fuck at this point.
Blindfolded or not, still, you're taking her to your home. You're putting her DNA all over your home. And she very wisely made a point to touch everything she could in his home, leaving her fingerprints all over the place.
Yep. Because she was blindfolded the entire time.
Yeah. And an interesting element to this story is that she had been, at the time, seriously contemplating suicide just hours before this attack. She'd even written a note due to years of emotional and sexual abuse endured at the hands of her grandmother's boyfriend. So she'd already been a sexual assault victim, was contemplating suicide due to this, and then she gets snatched up by this guy. She was on an episode of I Survived, which she said, quote, "I was deathly afraid that he was going to kill me. Here I was thinking about killing myself, and now I was going to be fighting for my life."
Jesus.
And wisely,
what a way to realize you want to live.
Right. And what's interesting, she became a sheriff, like a deputy sheriff later on, and dedicated her life to serving the community and helping people that were victims of crimes like this, which is just amazing.
The way that she kept cool though, during this whole encounter is absolutely amazing.
Yep.
And
using many of the tools that we've talked about in our, tools to survive a serial killer. Like she's trying to, much like last week with Rebecca Cantu, our last episode, you tried to humanize yourself to these monsters. You try to make yourself less dispensable. And she tried to connect with her captor even after he repeatedly raped her.
And I think she kind of got to him after a while because she described one instance when they were in the shower together, and she's like, he started touching me like he cared about me. She's like, he was like washing my hair and like, rubbing my face. And then she's like, and then he took my hands and put them on his face. And she was like, and then that is when she just started feeling his face to try to get any idea of what this man might look like.
Yeah.
Which was bold. Like, why would you do that?
Right.
Like, as a killer, why the hell would you let your victim touch your face?
And that he wouldn't have she would have never gotten this treatment if she was a sex worker on Nebraska Avenue. This was one where she was riding home from work and he snatched her off her bike. That was part of this situation. She got a little bit more of a leash because she was not a trash person in his eyes.
Right. I think in a perfect world, he keeps her as his girlfriend. You know what I mean? I think he had these weird fantasies like, maybe she'll fall in love with me if I keep her long enough. Because I really do like this
There
one.
had to have been at least a 1% chance that he thought that when he let her go, she would come back, right?
Yeah.
Instead, she went straight to the police, thank God.
He really did.
Yeah. So she continued to listen to him talk about his problems with women over that period of time that she was in his apartment. She even offered to be his girlfriend, and she wouldn't tell anyone, she said. Then McVay made up a story about being the sole carer for her sick father. And she just made it really hard for him to kill her. She just made herself, valuable in his eyes. And ultimately, these attempts to connect herself with the killer saved her life, it seems. While still blindfolded, McVay used the bathroom in Long's apartment and touched everything she could, as we mentioned, just putting her fingerprints all over everything. And then in the early hours of November 4th, Bobby ordered a still blindfolded McVay back into his car, which she counted the steps in his house and noted the red carpet interior of his Magnum and the font that said Magnum inside the car, which was a feature of only the 1978 model of that car.
Right. And if you're wondering how she saw this, apparently the blindfold, she could look down out of the blindfold. Because, like sometimes when your blindfold goes over the bridge of your nose, you can still see out the bottom,
Yeah, so if you tilt your head back far enough, you can see down under it.
Exactly. And so, she's walking around with her head back, just trying to see as much as she possibly can. And that's how she picked up on the fibers in the Magnum. Because that was my first question. Like, how did she see that if she's blindfolded the entire time? But
yeah, I think he even later said after his capture that he knew she could see. He said, I knew she could see. I knew that this is probably going to get me caught. But he said he couldn't bring himself to kill her. And maybe he wanted to be caught at that point.
Maybe.
So he drove her further, pulled her over, and told McVay to get out of the car and keep her blindfold on for 5 more minutes as he drove away. And she later proclaimed, quote, I would say thank you for choosing me and not another 17-year-old girl. Another 17-year-old girl probably wouldn't have been able to handle it the way I have. I truly believe that all the abuse I'd been through in my life helped me get out of that situation.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate and it sucks that she suffered all that abuse and then ends up being a victim of a serial killer and rapist at the same time. But it's true. If she hadn't been in those situations.
Honestly, for society's sake, thank God it was her, because she was strong. She'd already been through it. And then she ultimately turns it into a positive and becomes a deputy sheriff and gets this guy put behind bars. I mean, she's strong enough to testify against him and everything else. And she actually was present at his execution many years later, 30 plus years later. She made a point to go there and wanted to be the last person to see he wanted to be her to be the last person he saw before, the poison entered his veins.
Yeah. But unfortunately he never opened his eyes. Yeah. She said he just sat there, eyes clenched.
Yeah.
Not looking into the eyes of his victim and victims' families.
Yeah. So following Bobby setting her free, she went straight to the police and told them everything that she could remember: the color of his car, the word Magnum on the dashboard, the red carpet in Long's home. She explained that her captor had used red carpet in his car and his house. What is with this guy? Just really loves red carpet.
I know, right? Apparently, red carpet was pretty popular back in the
That's
day,
true.
though.
That's true.
In the 70s and 80s, it was really popular.
Yeah, man. Just imagine
Cars
that
and
though. Like
houses.
red carpet. This just seems bizarre to have in your home or in your car. Maybe not so much, but in a home,
Yeah.
red carpet's definitely not too popular these days.
No, no, not anymore.
No.
No, but 70s and 80s, yeah, I think it was more popular.
Probably
I had
a
a couple
brilliant
family
move for a
members that had
serial
like
killer,
red
though,
shag
right?
carpet.
Probably a brilliant move for a
What?
serial killer if you think about it.
What, red?
Yeah, red carpet.
Oh yeah.
Spill some
So
blood
the
on
blood
it.
doesn't show.
Just blends right in.
Yeah, I guess so. I
Um,
wasn't thinking, but apparently it comes apart really well.
Yeah. Something that she
Just
had,
fragments and everything.
something she told the police really helped to get him caught was the fact that on his way to dropping her off and setting her free, he had stopped at a bank machine, so like an ATM, just before she was
Mhm.
released. And this would help tie the rare car, that single year of red Dodge Magnum, which there wasn't that many in the area, and the fact that he went to an
Right.
ATM at a specific time, they were able to connect those things. And also, forensic tests on McVay's clothing revealed the presence of the same red carpet fibers discovered on the other victims, and this just solidified her story to police. Now they know this has got to be the same guy that's been killing these women. Around this time, two more of the victims were found. The last two victims of his that would be attributed to him: 18-year-old Virginia Johnson, who had just lost a sister in a car accident a year prior. Her body was found on November 6th. Then 21-year-old Kim Swan on November 12th. She had a son named Robbie and was enrolled in vocational school. Only bones were left of Johnson, but a ligature cord was found at the scene. Swan, who had been a dancer at the Sly Fox, had ligature marks on her neck and wrists as well. And the same red carpet fibers, once again, were found at both crime scenes.
Once again.
He's just tying himself to all of these murders.
Yep. Damn red carpet, man, and the rare car too.
Isn't that amazing?
And if you're
though?
wondering how
one of them was skeletal remains, and they still find red carpet fibers.
God,
It's like, dang,
that carpet, man.
Maybe they were
That
like
carpet.
entwined in the ligature that was found at the scene. Who knows?
Oh yeah.
Because he probably
That's a good
threw that
point.
ligature in the vehicle on the red fibers and rope. They probably just got entwined together.
Yeah, probably.
So, following McVay's reports, police acquired a list of all 1978 Dodge Magnum owners in Hillsborough County and subpoenaed the records for all bank machines in North Tampa. Comparing the lists, they found that only one 1978 Dodge Magnum owner had used a bank machine at 3 a.m. on November 4th, and that was Bobby Joe Long. They finally found their
they got
guy.
him.
And when they look into his background, I'm sure they saw the abuse of his wife. They saw the rape conviction that got acquitted, and they're like, probably thinking this is him. No doubt. We've got our guy.
No doubt.
So they found his car and home not far from the bank machine also that had been used, and they put on a surveillance for 24 hours before arresting him. They arrested him outside of a movie theater on November 16th, 1984, and charged him with the sexual battery and kidnapping of Lisa McVay. I think they also acquired like a picture of him. Oh, that's what it was. They pulled him over. So when they had him under surveillance, they pulled him over under a guise of like some robbery in the area, and his car matched the description or something. And they actually asked if they could take a photo of him, and he agreed, and then set him free. And then they took that photo to Lisa McVay, and she confirmed that it matched what little she had seen of him or whatever.
Right. And then also, while he's in that movie theater, they were investigating and checking out his tires.
Yeah.
And they found that one tire matched. And they were like, that's it. That's the nail in the coffin right there.
Yeah.
That's it.
So now in custody, they can really start grilling him about the murders. They have him for that sexual battery and kidnapping, but now they've got to get him to confess to all those murders. And he signs a formal Miranda waiver and consented to questioning. But after the detectives procured a confession for the McVay case, their questioning focused on a series of unsolved sexual battery homicides. So they start turning to all the murders, and he starts getting a little sheepish at that point, and says, "I'd rather not answer those questions." The detectives continued the interrogation and handed long photographs of the various murder victims. At that point, he stated, "The complexion of things sure have changed since you came back into the room. I think I might need an attorney." And I'm guessing they kind of deflected that. They didn't go, "Would you like an attorney right now?" They were probably like, "Well, let me just ask you one more question." Whatever they did, they diverted it back to questioning. And ultimately, he would give in and confess to 10 murders and McVay's rape and kidnapping. He would also reveal the location of Vicky Elliott's body, I believe, as well as his first victim that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Because she was found in November, not long after his capture. A plea bargain would be agreed upon in which Long would plead guilty to 8 of the 10 murders, and he subsequently received 28 life sentences for murder, rape, including the rapes that he committed as a classified ads rapist as well, and kidnapping. And for the murder of Michelle Sims, the beauty pageant winner, he received the death penalty and hung out on death row for almost 35 years, as we've seen many times. Nonetheless,
that's a long time for Florida.
It is. That's true. Like if it was California, it wouldn't be surprising at all.
No.
But one of the first things Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida did on April 23rd, 2019 was sign that Bobby Long's death warrant, the first death warrant he had signed since taking over office in January of 2019. And Bobby Joe Long's subsequent appeals were denied, and he was executed by lethal injection on May 23rd, 2019, just a few years ago, nearly 35 years after his conviction. He ate his final meal at 9:30 a.m. He requested roast beef, bacon, French fries, and soda. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, really.
And
roast beef and bacon.
That's an odd combo. That's a really odd combo.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Right.
He would be pronounced dead at 7 p.m. and made no last statement. And as for Lisa McVay, the one that survived and became a sheriff's deputy, she said, quote, I wanted to look him in the eye. I wanted to be the first person he saw. Unfortunately, he didn't open his eyes, but she did, in fact, make a point to go to his execution and witness his death.
Good.
Yep.
I'm sure that gave her some closure.
Absolutely.
You know, that was a good feeling, especially in the spot in life that she is, the way she turned that around. And then now, you know, I don't know. I just feel like a police officer who has the experience that she has now, a true victim's experience, a true worst case scenario. It's like, I just don't know how you would get any more passion to help people than that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the exact type of person that you would hope would become a police officer, someone who knows what it feels like to be a victim, you know?
On multiple fronts. She was abused by a family member early on, and then snatched up by a random sexual predator and held captive. I mean, geez, not many people have had the experience that she's had.
And she was just tired of being a victim, man.
Yeah.
And I admire that. I admire that a lot.
Yeah.
Very impressive. And you hear some of her in the intro as well. There's a lot of interviews with Lisa McVay. You go on YouTube, and she's a very inspiring person, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
Wow.
One way to be an inspiring person is to have really pleasant smelling armpits as well.
You think so? You think that inspires people?
Yeah, inspire people to smell better.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's right. And I'd like to inspire you to smell better naturally and organically.
That's right.
Right?
Not our best segue, I'll give you that.
No, but we're getting there.
We're a little rusty.
If you guys don't know what this bumpy segue we're trying to make here, it's for Oh My Gaia. Oh My Gaia, which is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company that specializes in paraben and aluminum-free products. And their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while still maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients in everything they make, guys. And there's tons of scents to choose from vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, fireside, bergamot amber, pear, sweet pea, sailor, barbershop. And if you don't know where to start with our own scent, True Crime Pine, made especially for the True Crime guys here. And because you're True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the word creeper for 15% off your order. That's creeper, CREEPER, for 15% off your order at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram or ohmygaia.com. There's also scented oils and beard oils, guys. So if you're growing out your beard for the winter, get you some good smelling beard oil from Oh My Gaia. Again, that's at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram or ohmygaia.com, ohmygaia.com, and use code word CREEPER for 15% off.
Yep. Also use code word CREEPER for our other weekly sponsor and organic company that can help you get through your day-to-day life. That is Tonic CBD. It's true, not all CBD products are created equal, from how the hemp is grown and processed to how it's formulated and delivered into your body. Every step of the process that goes into making the product affects your ultimate experience with it. That's why Tonic's products really stand out. Founder Brittany Carbone created her original formulas using CBD, adaptogens, herbs, and superfoods back in 2017 and has been working to deliver the most effective, intentional, and sustainable products possible ever since. Tonic Craft cultivates their own hemp on their certified organic family farm in upstate New York. That hemp travels only 30 minutes to their state-of-the-art manufacturing and distribution facility where it's turned into a finished product and sent to you, ensuring only the highest quality vibes at every stage of the process. They have a bunch of different blends depending on your needs. I love grounded and chill. They help get a good night's sleep. They help you with anxiety. Chill has ashwagandha, lemon balm, and passion flower to deliver a super calming effect. And it's also easy to verify the quality of their products. There's a microchip on the top of the product's packaging, which allows you to tap your phone on the top of the tube and reveal third-party lab reports, product information, details about the farm, and even helpful blog posts to provide you with CBD education. So with values rooted in quality, integrity, and sustainability, Tonic is committed to creating plant-based wellness products that are good for the people and good for the planet. Visit tonicvibes.com to learn more and use code word CREEPER for 20% off your order. That's tonicvibes.com, code word CREEPER.
That's right, guys. And links to both of these sponsors are right below the description of this episode.
That's right. Also, check out our Patreon page, $2 a month. It's a new year. Why not just get it off?
That's right.
Just get it over with. $21 for the year and you're done. And
Boom.
You'll be sitting here next January before you have to put another penny towards it. And you get all of our premium content on there, hundreds of episodes from our once a month premium, just normal true crime episodes to our Just the Banter episodes to Higher Thoughts to Sandu, all of it. You get it all on there for $2 a month. And also, well, on the $5 tier, you get Just the Banter and all that other stuff. Yeah. But, we're going to be firing up Just the Banter for the new year very soon. What, starting next week? You gonna fire that up?
Yeah, that's right.
Get back on
Just
track.
the Banter will be back.
That's right, baby.
Be back next week. But yeah, on that $2 tier, you get all the Vault episodes, which are the 51st episodes of True Crime Guys, which are no longer available on free platforms. They are tucked away in the Vault on Patreon, as well as, like Lauren said, every Patreon exclusive. And then if you jump up to the $5 tier, you get access to literally everything we make, from Lauren's 5-Minute Murder Show to Just the Banter to Sandu Stories, Strange Shorts with myself and Andy. There is a lot going on every week on Patreon. So, and like we said, guys, we took a little break for the holidays, but everything will be back in full effect starting this month.
That's right.
All right.
And I want to thank everybody that's taking the time to go and rate and review the show, whether it's on iTunes or if you click 5 stars on Spotify, if that's where you like to listen. Also, check out our YouTube page and subscribe to that. You can watch our episodes. If you only listen in audio form and you've never checked out the actual video form of it yet, it's a different experience. You know, Michael's wife does a great job of putting those together, and you get pictures along with the story. Because I know you're Googling anyway. You got to see what this guy looks like. You got to see what some of the victims look like. You're curious. Yeah. So we do all the work for you over on the YouTube page. So go give that a subscribe, check it out, put a like on the videos, help us grow on there as well.
That's right. Easy peasy, guys. We do all the work for you.
Yep. All right.
All right.
That's about it. We'll see you next week. Keep creeping.
Keep creeping, guys.
From the minds of True Crime Guys, come TCG Weekly.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to check out all the other programs on the TCG network. Every Wednesday, a new episode of True Crime Guys proper, Strange and Unexplained on Mondays, and Full House Fantasy Football on Fridays to start your weekend. And if those aren't enough, head on over to our Patreon account, where you can have access to hundreds of hours of content, including older episodes and other Patreon exclusives like Strange Shorts, Sandu Stories, Higher Thoughts, and the 5-Minute Murder Show. But until next time, guys, keep creeping. Hey, how do you shut this thing off? Over?
You hush your mouth, boy.